Welcome to yet another informative episode of Eye on the Money, the show that gives you insights into how to improve your financial well-being as well as make your money work for you. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Now, according to a study on attitudes to inheritance in Kenya, 1 in 6 Kenyans saving for retirement do not consider it important to leave their wealth to their children when they die. The study also depicts an older generation with little confidence in the ability of a younger generation that they consider irresponsible. About 30% of the respondents said they did not fully trust their children with their ability to manage their inheritance very well. And it's against its realities that I found it fit to discuss how to prepare your children for inheritance. And joining me in studio is CEO and author at Money Clinic, Amos Ngahu. You're welcome to the show, Amos.
Thank you.
First time in 2020.
Yes.
Are you excited?
More than excited.
Me too. So we're here to talk about inheritance.
Yes.
And it's weird. I don't know if it's weird or it's strange. Do the statistics surprise you?
No, it's
30% of families in Kenya are not confident that when they leave their wealth behind for their children, it will be managed well.
Yeah.
And Amos, honestly, I feel like even when we look at the picture on the ground, there's kind of some truth to it. It's even been in the media, we've seen it over the press, where we've seen families build generational wealth, where they've built empires, and then when it's, handed over in a succession plan to the child, somehow it all comes crumbling down. Yeah. I would like to hear your thoughts on inheritance and children, or rather parents, actually preparing their children for the same.
Well, thank you. It's actually quite accurate because of late we've seen a lot of stories pertaining to wealth that has been left behind. We even saw recent ones of even now auctions being done. And it's quite unfortunate because you realize that even you coming here to work, you're building something for yourself. Right. And most of the times you're thinking about how can we make our children better. And most of the times we focus so much on acquiring wealth more than what we want to leave in them. Because when you focus so much on what you want to leave for them, you will actually forgo some of the things, some of the key foundations that you can actually start setting up early. So it's quite unfortunate and it's happening a lot. And if we don't do something about it, actually depending on the stage you are at, the story is not going to change. And you will find a lot of either lost wealth, mismanaged wealth, and others that other wealth that is actually deposited with unclaimed assets, because now you can't trust people you're leaving behind.
That's true.
Yes.
And you mentioned something that caught my attention where you said, we're out here, we go to work on a regular basis, try to build something for ourselves, see what we can leave behind for our children, but the main emphasis is more on the acquisition than actually also preparing our children on how to take it on when it happens. So Amos, in line with that then, where do you think the problem lies and what ideally should be done so that even as we toil on a regular basis, when that time comes, we're confident, we're happy, what are the steps we need to put in place prior to so that when the time comes, everything is in order?
I think there are no steps per se because in my experience, I'm doing my 14th year meeting different people on a daily basis.
Right.
And you'll find people have their own solutions. So basically, it's not like it's a script that you have to operate within this means. But some of the things I've learned is that the moment you focus on the bigger wealth, what you're going to leave for your children. Some of the people who I've seen are successful and they've started something and they've grown it, most of them have a story to tell. Most of them will tell you, I started working by borrowing or starting something in the streets, and I built it over time. So personally, I feel like it's the mental attitude. Because if today I start everything my child asks for, I am giving. If I don't show them the process of acquiring it or how I'm acquiring it, they grow up with a sense of self-entitlement, which we've seen with a lot of youth. It's so sad that actually yesterday, there's this young man that I happen to associate with, and the guy comes from a very wealthy family. And the guy has been in depression because I haven't seen him in a while. only to sit with him, and he told me of how his life has been. Because all of a sudden the mom decided, you know what, after 9 p.m., I'm locking everybody out. The guy is 23.
Wow.
So what, after 9, you
That's
sleep
it.
wherever you are.
So his curfew is 9.
Yes, his curfew is 9. Then he's not been doing very well in studies. So, and he's been working for the dad. So yesterday morning he was fired.
By his dad.
The mom.
Okay.
And the guy is telling me, you know, even my brother has refused to take me in. I'm struggling. These guys, I don't know, they're just ditching me. And I thought, wow, if I'd meet the mom, I'd give her a high five. Because you're building a man.
Right.
You know? Because this guy, all through, he has been having a self-entitlement. I mean, he feels like he needs everything. But again, the guy needs support.
Right.
So when I sat with him, I told him, you know what, let's forget about, assume you don't have all these people. There are people who started off worse than you have. There are people who didn't have anything. Nobody ever paid for them. So having this discussion, you don't have to wait until your child is 22 or 23 for you to kick them out. Start early. When they are young, does even, because they tell you, I want pizza, I want sausage, I want this. Do they know the prices?
Yeah.
Get the menu. Start recording. Let them know that a pizza costs 1,000, a burger will cost 500. So when we have a long weekend and you want to have you want to go out every day, you'd rather have a burger for 2-3 days than a pizza one-off. You understand? Small discussions, and let them understand that these resources are scarce.
So basically, children need to understand also the importance of financial management, and in as much as you're from a wealthy family, you you have to know how to live within what's more. Because Amos, also one of the biggest problems when it comes also with inheritance and being mismanaged or whatever. Even when you read the paper, it's because a lot of times these children are brought up in extravagance, right? So if you're used to leading a certain way of life and everything is even provided for you, and then all of a sudden you're handed this, you're used to living extravagantly, are you really going to know how to, now tie up the financial ends here in that situation, right?
You would be surprised. There are people I know who've inherited quite a lot, and they've actually grown it further than what was expected of them. The mistakes that most of us parents do is playing the role of God in our children's lives. Take for instance, being a Christian, you realize that in the Bible, there are so many heroes in the Bible, but not all stories are the same. You'll find there's one guy who was very wealthy, but he had his own challenges. You'll find there's one guy who was very poor, had his own challenges, but in the long run, there is a purpose that child is supposed to serve. So if today you have like 3 children, they cannot all be the same. Let's say you're in media and you have like 3 children, not all of them will be in media. Others will be doctors, others may want to do charity. So it's up to you to use your resources to empower them to be better. Because if we focus right now on, let's say, all our kids must do medicine because I am a doctor, that cannot guide them, right? And the moment you derail them from their destiny, from the purpose they want to pursue, and then you have forced them to study and now they're in your business, they will fail the business.
So Amos, just to put a pause on that and to understand what you're saying, which actually ties into the question I was going to ask, how do you determine who to leave what, especially when you have a big pool of children, right? Amos, does that mean, what you're trying to tell me is, I may have so much wealth, right? I may have buildings here, hotels there, a farm here, pieces of land there, right? And in my, somewhere in my mind, I wanted to allocate something to at least each of my children, but some of them might just not be in that mindset. Like you've said, some of them might just be interested in maybe traveling the world and changing lives. Some of them might just be interested in, like me, sitting in front of a camera, and then all of a sudden I throw a hotel at you and expect you to manage. Is what you're trying to tell me then is, if a child is not displaying attributes of being an entrepreneur, then maybe you shouldn't think about that. How do you go about determining who to leave what when it comes to inheritance?
Well, like I said earlier, there's no clear formula or strategy to apply. But looking at some of the people who've done that, let's look at someone like Warren Buffett. A time came where he realized that his kids were pursuing their different careers. What he did, he gave them each $50,000 each, and the rest he gave to charity, just to boost them. I have seen some very successful families here in Kenya set up a board of directors based on one. If, for instance, you're in a certain industry, let's say now at Money Clinic, I'm 70 and I'm retiring, and I have developed some employees who've actually played a major role in growth of my business. I put them in the board, and I allocate them shares. And even for kids, you say for each kid I can allocate this and this and this and this. What we need to understand is being emotionally competent as a parent when you are allocating these things, because from early stage, my dad used to tell me that I was very creative. He thought I would be an engineer because I liked working in my hands. Little did I know I would be talking to people.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
But over time, as you parent, you realize that some of your kids are gifted in certain areas. As you help them pursue, remember, even for people who are pursuing talent-based careers, let's say like in sports, they still need skills like entrepreneurial skills so that when they retire, they can be able to apply something. So teaching them general skills in managing their own empires will give them room, even when you're gone, to bring in the skills into your business. So it has to be something very intentional in terms of parenting, because I feel like that's where we go wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Amos, before we go for a quick break, let me ask you, we've also seen situations where some, families have decided we're going to tie distribution to age. And by that I mean they put restrictions on the payouts. So for example, unfortunately, like we want you to be a part of the, the whole inheritance, but at age of 12, you're given a certain amount. As you gradually grow up, it keeps increasing. That way you're being monitored.
Yes.
That way we're also seeing how, you're working with the money. What would be your take on that? And is that also a viable option? And how does it even work as the expert?
It is quite viable, because I've seen people who've even started very early, even from the age of 5 or 10. One particular friend of mine, I keep giving this story, she used to take her nieces and nephews out, but every time she would take them out, she would spend a fortune. So she realized one time, why don't I give them equal amount of money? So she said, I'll give them, let's say, 500 each. But she told them, once that money is gone, we go home. Do you know, they went around negotiating and they came back with change.
Wow.
And you're talking about kids who are below 10.
Wow.
So they are already taking a sense of responsibility. So taking it further, when they are 10, you give them something bigger, you give them a responsibility, you make them earn their money. That way they grow knowing that the basic facts about economics, that these are rare resources. They need to understand that, not that every time they ask for something new, they get it. Yes.
Well, we'll take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have so much more for you right here on the Eye on the Money. You can keep the conversation going on our social media handles at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be right back.